Had to go get a new device so you can hear me because they said you couldn't hear me on my other device. So it's okay. I know now. Okay. Upgrade. Upgrading time. Okay, let's get it. Let's get it. YouTube. I am Jazzy Gems. Gratitude for coming to my live. Gratitude for following, liking, subscribing. Okay, so we got to get down to business over here. Now, we all know that I have been over there on YouTube and I've been making a lot of videos. I've been putting a lot of knowledge out there. Um, I I attempt to put as many of the YouTube video, as many as the TikTok videos over here as I can. Some of them are very lengthy. Um, I am still looking on how to break that down, so I'm still working on that. That is in the works with me. Um, Over on my website, I have these ebooks that I have been putting together with the lives that we've been doing. So if you're interested in the ebooks, the website information link is in the bio there. You could go tap on there and have at it with the different the ebooks that can help you with this knowledge. You'll be able to print them out. Um, Also, let's get into this knowledge. So, over here, we've been talking about George. Now, the etymology of the George is a warrior. George is a warrior, honey. George is a warrior that slays demons. George is also, the etymology of George means worker of the land, tiller of the land. So, George is a worker and tiller of the land. Okay. So when we say George is a worker and a tiller of the land, we're actually talking about of the earth. So George is literally a king of the earth. Okay. Um, George Washington. Washington, the last name Washington is for the tribe of the Washita Moor Dahomey. These are Moors. So these are people that are melanated. Um, George Washington was born in Westmoreland, the land of the Moors in the West. Okay, so if we go to school, the school will teach us that George Washington was born in Virginia. At the time, Virginia's colony was the 13 colonies. So the 13 colonies um, were larger territories than what we know them as. And the 13 colonies were actually called Virginia at one point in time. So, with us being the people from Virginia, wait a minute, hold on. I think I'm a. So with us being these people coming from Virginia, that's the Virgin Islands, associated with the Virgin Islands, also associated with the West Indies. So on the George Washington Black movie, the series that comes on Hulu, George Washington mother name is Kit, Big Kit, and she is what is called a Dahomey warrior. So she belongs to the tribe called the Dahomeys. Now, when you do your research about the Dahomey tribe, you will find out that the Dahomey tribe is actually considered as Africans. It's considered an African tribe. So, right now, there is talk that we are from America and we are not from Africa. So, a lot of people are choosing to opt out of African spirituality and African knowledge. And that's the point of teaching us that we're not associated with Africa, so we throw this part of ourselves away. So when I say Africa, I'm talking about the spirituality that lives within you, because that was your higher self, your higher man, your higher state. Africa is also associated with Al-Kibulan. Al-Kibulan is where the alchemist is. The Moors were alchemists, scientists. Um, the Moors actually established in the West a territory. So as soon as the um talking about the territories. So something that a lot of us may not know is the West, what we consider the West, where Oregon is, where Judah is, that's Utah, where Nevada, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, the West. Well, that is actually Africa. The West. That's considered the old world. That is also considered Spain. Okay, so on my YouTube videos, when you see me put these different on my TikTok video, excuse me, when you see me put these different images up, those are the images that we putting up. We are putting up images from the 1700s before colonization. We're putting up maps before colonization, right? Before the land was called this, before it became a colony, before it became a state. So we're looking up the territories because we understand that the indigenous people that were living here lived in territories. Okay? The indigenous people that lived here before colonization were actually tribes, tribal people. These people had formed tribes. These tribes had become mighty empires, such as Timbuktu. Timbuktu is connected to the Shanghai Empire because it's an empire, and this is African. This is also connected to the Mali Empire. The Mali Empire is connected to a king, an infamous king called Mansa Musa. Now, Mansa Musa is a Western king of the Songhai Empire. Mansa Musa is known for bringing the gold to Mecca. Okay, he brought the gold to Egypt. He brought the gold to Mecca. Mecca is also associated with what we would call the Arab nation. So, what I want you to know is we are the Arabs. We are the Muslims. We are actually the people of the Shanghai Empire, of the Mali Empire, right? We are directly kin to this Mansa Musa. So when you break down Mansa Musa, Mansa, wait a minute, let me see. I got the breakdown over here actually. Say that in my face. Actually got the breakdown right here. I wasn't coming on here to talk about Mansa Musa, but since we're talking about him, honey, let's get into it. I love breaking down this knowledge. I swear I do. It's beautiful. Okay, so I got Mansa Musa. Mansa means large and great. So he is a large, great king, Mansa, that comes from Musa. Musa means emperor. Musa also means Moses, the prophet. So we talking about the prophet Moses here, Mansa Musa, right? If we break down the word Mansa Musa, you got the prophet Moses here. So we got the prophet Moses, who actually is associated with Egypt, right? We know that he is called the king of Egypt. So that makes sense if we talking about Massa Musa going down here to Egypt, giving them gold, if Moses is Massa Musa. Now, Moses comes from this empire that was in the West. Okay? The Western Empire is what we would call Africa. Now, over there in the West, if you go and do your study and take my words and go study, go over and look at the animals that are indigenous in the West. Now, if you go to the Bible, it's going to tell you that Moses, when Moses was ruling and when all his days walking the earth, Moses was actually a shepherd in the land, right? The Bible teaches us that Moses was actually a shepherd. So that meant Moses was a herder. Moses had cows. Moses had chickens. Moses had flocks. Okay, so that meant Moses was a farmer like King George, right? Because George means farmer of the earth, king of the earth, right? So to be a king of the earth is to be a farmer of the land, to be able to grow food, to be able to have dominion over the animals. That's biblical, right? That's a farmer, correct? So we were farmers, literally. We had dominion over the animals. We were farmers. You know, we took care of these animals. We took care of the land. We took care of the earth. Okay? So we were assigned these plantations in the earth that was ancestral plots, ancestral lands. So your ancestral land has been in the family for decades. Why? Because you just keep reincarnating, coming back to this land, you and your family, right? Because we understood reincarnation. We understood afterlives because we are the Egyptians, right? The Egyptians always prepped for the afterlife. They always made sure that they was watching, preparing themselves for what is to come. Okay? So, us being these Georges, these people of George, um, Georgians, that's where that come from. That's where Georgia come from because Georgia has fertile soil. Okay? Because when we were in the West, Moses had promised us that we were going to leave that land and go into what is known as the promised land. So, when we went on the journey of Exodus, where Moses parted the Red Sea, we were leaving the west, coming to the east. Okay? So, when we were leaving the west, we were in Texas, we were in California, we were in Nevada, we were in Dakota, we were in Idaho, we were in Oregon, but these names were not Oregon and Idaho and things like that. These were actually Indian territories. So a lot of these places had indigenous names, tribal names, names that me and you may not recognize today if we went back studying looking for these places because we didn't know that once these places got colonized, conquered, and divided, their names was changed. The people was reclassified, right? The people's history was reconstructed. The people were told that they come from somewhere else and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Now, we also found out that in the West Hemisphere, where that is called Africa, we also found out that it's called Spain. That is the Spanish territory. So, this is why you have so many people speaking Spanish in California, New Mexico, Nevada, to this day. People are speaking Spanish heavily over there in these places. Why? Because this is Spain. Okay, so these people speak Spanish. These people speak Latin. Okay, so if you do your research, the Bible that me and you read today has been translated out of Latin. So the Bible comes from Latin. Okay. Martin Luther, a monk that lived in the 1500s, actually helped translate the Bible from Latin. What was it? From Hebrew into Latin. So Latin also is a old language that derives from Roman language or Italian language, because Italian is the language that the Romans spoke. Now, Latin is very similar to Italian. If you learn how to speak Latin, then you can master Italian, Spanish, French. Does that make sense? That Latin is like the mother language of these languages? Okay, so a lot of us do not speak Latin. Latin is also a magical language. A lot of the spells in medieval Europe, aka here in America, because the Louisiana Purchase, that's Europe, honey. The Louisiana Purchase, that's the purchase of Europe. That's the purchase of the old world. Okay, so that's a lot of things that I'm teaching in my labs, and that's why I'm coming over here to do as much as I can to tell you about the things that we learning on these labs. And then I come over and I am putting these TikTok videos up so you can see this stuff for yourself. And then I create the ebooks in case you want to take your knowledge even deeper or further, right? So I am creating this community where we are learning about America's true history. We learning about our spirituality. We are learning about our roots and culture. Now, us learning that we are these indigenous people to this land, regardless of what the people call the land, we indigenous to this land. We indigenous to this earth. So we are all connected through the Great Spirit. That's the biggest thing about the Indians. The Indians was real big on spirit, the spiritual realm, the spiritual world, spiritual animals, spiritual everything. Everything was spiritual to these Indians, okay? So when I go back and study this Indian knowledge, the Indian knowledge is to tap into the culture. So I have been learning that um I'm pretty sure you are aware that America is Egypt, right? So I have an image that I put up where you can see Israel over on the West Coast, where California, Oregon, Nevada is. And then at the bottom in the southern region, you will see Egypt. Okay? So Egypt being in the southern region is also where Cleopatra was living at, dwelling at. So we have the city of Athens. We're talking about the city of Ptolemy. We're talking about Mauritania. Um, we're actually talking about some of these ancient places that existed before the colonizers came into place. So the fact that we have traced Louisiana that to Cleopatra, we're decoding Cleopatra down in Louisiana with pictures, images, with facts. So please make sure you tune in to watch that. Also, we have been decoding Florida because we are aware that Florida is Italy. And we're aware that Florida has a lot of secrets in Florida, decoding it going forward. Um, we are aware that Illinois is Little Egypt. So there is a lot of secrets there that we've been uncoding, culture, roots. So we have been really tapping in, learning the what is the word? Geological places. Geological places that these places are in. We're learning the original names of these places. We're also learning a lot about our ancestry. We're learning a lot about our roots and culture. We're learning a lot about Indians, the Indian nations. We're learning about the Choctaw Nation. We're learning about, yes, I know I said Choctaw because people love to correct me when I say Choctaw. That's how I pronounce the word. That is how I pronounce the word. It don't matter if you spell it out, you write it down. You could have a lecture with me and pronunciate the word. I'm still going to say Choctaw. Okay, that doesn't mean I don't know about it. Okay, just because I pronunciate a word wrong does not mean I don't hold knowledge on the word. Because when you are a content creator, honey, if you say the wrong word, people will discredit your knowledge. Not only that, people will do videos debunking what you said because you said a word wrong. People will come for you. That's how you know a lot of people that watch, they not watching to get the good news. A lot of people are watching to make a mockery of you. A lot of people are watching to tear you down. A lot of people are watching because people have wicked intentions. Why? Because we have been programmed to be wicked. We have been programmed to be evil. Yesterday, we learned about Sodom and Gomorrah in a way that I never heard of before. I'm going to do my best to post these videos up here on YouTube. Please make sure you are watching these TikTok videos, okay? But on the Sodom and Gomorrah video, we had learned that, man, Sodom and Gomorrah was really, really wicked. Really, really wicked, honey. This in Sodom and Gomorrah, these folk was really trying to have sex with angels, bro. They was trying to bend the angels over, bro. They was trying to they was trying to have orgies with the angels, bro. You know shit bad when you don't even care. You just trying to get people in the bed. Isn't that what's going on now? I mean, because if you think about the whole what's going on in California, the Epstein files and all that type of stuff that's going on right now, that's not remnants of Sodom and Gomorrah. You don't have people hunching on one another, whether they woman, man, child. You don't have all of this going on. They got animals, they having rituals, shit you and I don't know what the hell going on. But this is some old ancient magic. And they doing it right before your eyes, right in your face. You know what I'm saying? But me and you lack knowledge because we have been sent to the school system to civilize us. And we have been indoctrinated and programmed. And meanwhile, we sit over here programmed, indoctrinated, blind in our mind, lacking sight, lacking vision, can't see what's in front of us in plain sight, while they just having a ball. And we just over here blind, eyes closed, ears closed. But we think that we're functioning. We think that we doing good. We think we progressing as a people. Meanwhile, we blind to the real world. We living in a simulation over here. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, in the real world, they over here in the know. They know what's going on with the blood magic, with the sacrifice, like all this stuff that we start hearing about or we pick up on and we call it conspiracies, right? This stuff is really going on. Just like I've been breaking down on my lives how the mythical creatures that's in the Bible are real. Now, they will have us thinking that these mythical beings that's in this Bible is not real. We've been decoding with proof, with receipts, that mermaids are real. Mermaids are called Nomos, and we are the Dogons, and we actually would learn from these Nomos. These Nomos are mermaids, these not only mermaids, but manatees, whales, sharks, um, dolphins, um, the seagulls. We were communicating beavers. We were communicating otters. We were communicating with these animals. And these animals, especially the aquatic animals, because water is a portal, these aquatic animals would actually give us knowledge of agriculture. Like even in the Bible, it explains to you the hidden versions of the Bible that most of us are not reading. Greetings. It tells us in the Bible that when Noah built Noah's Ark, because if Noah built Noah's Ark, it was a lot of trees involved in building of Noah's Ark. So if you go study your history, you will find out in California, you got all these cedar trees, all these cypress trees. You have all these trees that are humongous. Like you could live in the tree, like build a mansion inside the tree because the tree's so huge. So Noah was definitely a giant because how the hell was he cutting down these big old trees? Right? So it even tells you in the Bible that Noah was a giant, and it tells you that these are missing out or King James versions. Um, Noah, the beavers helped Noah build the ship. A lot of those animals that was coming to the ship, they was helping Noah build the ship. The elephants was carrying the wood to the ship. The camels was carrying wood. You have the beavers was helping chop the wood down. You have the mystical unicorns that were flying, right? Yesterday we even learned that Enoch, Noah's great grandfather, got on a horse that had wings, that's Pegasus, right? And flew away to heaven. Why is that not in the Bible? But then people will tell me that I'm crazy because I actually got parts of the Bible that's missing. I've actually read books that's missing out the Bible. Like yesterday on my live, we sat there 13 hours and listened to books missing out the Bible. So the 13 hours of knowledge that I got yesterday, I can't sit here and argue with somebody that don't got that 13 hours of knowledge. You understand? So today I'm going to advance my knowledge again. So once I advance my knowledge again, I'm going to be equipped to talk to somebody that lack knowledge. See what I'm saying? So every day I'm steady getting my knowledge up on these matters. I'm steady learning more about it. My mind is opening up to it. I'm opening myself up to more sources of knowledge, more books, more information, more intel. So then I'm going to run across somebody who lacks knowledge that unicorns are in the Bible. I'm going to run past somebody who lack knowledge that nomos are mermaids. So I'm gonna run past somebody that lack knowledge that Noah is actually our ancestor that built the ship that ended up over here in the Carolinas, in the mountains, in the Carolinas, because he came from the old world, which was over here in California, right? So when it flooded, he went from one end to the other end because we talking about the directions of the sun, because these are the solar people, the sun people. Like I said, I got the knowledge to understand it. So when people don't have the knowledge to know, it make it difficult for you to talk about what you know. Because now when you talk about what you know and you bringing forth facts and you putting it together, people that lack knowledge want to sit over here and disagree. People want to sit over here and debunk you and debate. And people want to argue and say that's not true, that didn't happen, that don't exist. But that's your only But don't come and debate the knowledge where it don't exist. Bring some receipts that it don't exist. Bring some, because I got receipts that it do exist. So bring some receipts that it don't exist. Don't just bring your word and your confusion and your lack of knowledge, because that's what people do when it comes to this knowledge. People don't be getting it. People don't be studying this stuff for real. They got too many distractions out here. And the reason they got these distractions is to keep you from knowing who you really are. Because the knowledge is here. It's 24 hours in a day. Now, how you spend your day with getting your knowledge, that's on you. You only spend 10 minutes getting knowledge, that's how much power you gonna have. 10 minutes worth of power. Why? Because that's how much you invested in yourself. Knowledge is power. These people do not want you to get this knowledge. Why? Because once you start getting this knowledge, you become too powerful for these people to rule over you and indoctrinate you and keep you a part of their sheep. Right? Because these people got sheep. And they depend on the sheep to be the flock so they could be the farmer. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so when they say you the shepherd, you know what I'm saying? That's all I want you to know. Okay, so we talked about Mansa Musa, we talked about George Washington, we talked about King David, we talked about how all of this is connected. Also, we're talking about Egypt is here in America. Egypt has ties to Texas. We found Texas, Egypt. We found Cairo, Texas. We found Cairo, Illinois. We found there is a Jerusalem, Arkansas. We also been going over, hopefully you went and watched my video called The Jackson Reunion. If you have not went to watch my video called The Jackson Reunion, please make sure you go and watch that. Once you go watch that, you will understand that we are Jacksons. The last name Jackson evolved from Jack's son. So now you have to know who is Jack and who is Jack's son. Because if your last name is Jackson, or if you are kin to a Jackson, then you need to know how did this name even come into play. So when we talk about a Jack's son, we are literally talking about Jack's descendants. Now, who is Jack? Jack and the Beanstalk? Yes, Jack that was dealing with the giants. Jack that had to cut down the tree, right? Because Jack cut down the beanstalk, right? Now, if you go in history, they will tell you that George Washington cut down the cherry tree. Is this the same Jack that cut down the tree? Yes, it is. But if you lack knowledge, you won't be able to connect those dots. You see what I'm saying? Okay, let's talk about it. Jack had magical beans, right? So that meant Jack was a farmer, okay? Because Jack planted those seeds. So when Jack planted those magical beans in the earth, those magical beans grew into this massive tree. Now this tree grew and went up into the heavens. So Jack climbed up the tree and went up into the heavens. When Jack went up into the heavens, Jack found out that there were giants there in the heavens, right? Jack was not a giant, because he in a world full of giants, right? When the Bible tells us that it was giants that lived in the earth, it tells us it was giants roaming the earth. It say wicked giants was eating people called Nephilims. Where did they come from, though? Nobody never tells us where these Nephilim come from in the Bible. But then when you go study the whole Jack and the Beanstalk story, you can realize that George Washington was out here planting the seeds because he's an earth worker. He's the king of the earth. So he planted these seeds. From these seeds grew these massive trees. We know it was massive trees because we see the tree stumps now. We could go in the woods in California and see giant ass tree stumps right now. Mississippi, giant ass tree stumps right now. Nevada, giant ass tree stumps right now. Utah, giant ass tree stumps right now. We call them mountains. They treetops. Do you understand? There are many mountains in these regions that was trees that had to get chopped down. Now, who chopped them down and why? So, when they chopped them down perfectly with a laser, right? They chopped them down with technology. This wasn't nobody out there swinging no X. Somebody chopped this down with technology, bro. Okay, now I just sat up here and told you George Washington, if you watch George Washington Black and find out he a whole ass engineer, this shit making sense. But if you don't know he an engineer and he was building flying ships and he was building spaceships and he was an Aztec and he was building this Aztec technology, you won't be able to fathom that this was some Star Wars shit going on and he was able to chop these trees down. You will lack knowledge, right? So, okay. Now, George Washington done planted these magical seeds. Now these trees done grew up into the heavens. So George climb up there, Jack. Look at the giants. The giants realized that they could come down to earth. So the giants start coming down these trees, honey. So now these giants done came down these trees. Now these giants are looking for blood. They looking for people to eat. Right? Come on now. They coming from a different dimension. Okay? They're looking for shit to eat. They looking for stuff. They from somewhere else. You have to think about it. If somebody opened up a portal and let you into their dimension, you finna go in there looking and prowling and trolling too, right? So that's what happened. It was an invasion. Why? Because he done put this tree up there. Okay, so now these beings and entities can come down. Okay, so they come in here, coming to and fro as they please. It say in the book of Abraham that we read last night that the devil, Satan, came to God and told him that he was traveling to and fro in and out the earth, up and down it, to see who he could seek and devour. Let's run that back. Matter of fact, let me get the Bible and run it back for the non-believers, because I'm sick of them. I'm so sick of these non-believers. I can't deal with it. I just be deleting them because I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm trying to get the word out. People want to sit around and don't study. No, it ain't. It be zoning me out. I swear it do. Okay, hold on. I'm getting my Bible. I'm going over here to book 17. Yes, book 17 is Job, the 17th book of the Bible. That's how cold I am with it. Yeah, don't tell me I don't read the Bible, but I know Job is the 17th book. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Job's wealth and pity. In the land of Uz, there was a blameless and upright man named Job who feared God and avoided evil. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born into him, and he had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a great number of work animals, so that he was greater than any of the men in the east. His sons used to take turns giving feasts, sending invitations to their 3 sisters to eat, drink with them. And when each feast had run its course, Job would send for them and sanctify them, rising early and offering holocaust for one of them. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and blasphemed God in their hearts." This Job did habitually. One day, when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "Whence do you come from?" Then Satan answered and said to God, "From roaming the earth and patrolling it." What did Satan say? Satan said he was roaming the earth and patrolling it. And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? and that there is no one in the earth like him, blameless and upright, fearing God and avoiding evil. But Satan answered the Lord and said, It is it for nothing that Job is God fearing? Have you not surrounded him and his family and all that he has with your protection? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his livestock are spread over the land. But now put forth your hand and touch anything that he has, and surely he will blaspheme you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand upon his person. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So Satan go get permission to test your gangster. Yeah. So that's like when you start getting all these blessings and you start getting all these accumulating things from the Most High, that's when Satan go and ask God's permission to touch you. So God say you could touch everything that this person got, but don't lay no hands on the person. Okay? So that's when you lose your house, your car, your money, your man, your woman, your children ain't messing with you, your family ain't messing with you, you done lost your job, you ain't got no friends, you know, everything around you is crumbling. Yeah, Satan testing you, right? We call that trials and tribulations, right? We call that obstacles, right? This happens to a lot of us, right? A lot of people, it do. You start getting your spiritual shit together, you know, getting your spirits right, walking on the right path, doing right by people, all hell break loose, don't it? Yeah, it do. Okay, so the first trial. And so one day, while his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their oldest brother, a messenger came to Job and said, The oxen were plowing and asses grazing beside them, and the Sabines carried them off in a riot, a red. They put the herdsmen to the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, another came and said, Lightning has fallen from heaven and struck the sheep and their shepherds and consumed them. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, another came and said, The Chaldeans formed 3 columns, seized the camels, carried them off, and put those tending them to the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, another came and said, Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their oldest brother when suddenly a great wind came across the desert and smote the 4 corners of the house. It fell upon the young people, and they all are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job began to tear his cloak and cut off his hair. He cast himself prostrate upon the ground and said, Naked I came forth from my mother's womb, and naked shall I go back again. And the Lord gave, and gave the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all of Job did not sin, nor did say anything disrespectful to God. So here you got his children is having a dinner, and a tornado come and take and destroy the house. Ain't that some Wizard of Oz shit? No, for real. Ain't this some Wizard of Oz shit? Yeah, something landed on the house and destroyed the house, and the children was in the house dead, right? Yeah, that's some Wizard of Oz shit. Yeah, because wasn't Dorothy in Kansas, and he was living in Kansas. See, if you don't know that he was living in the West, then you ain't gonna think of the Wizard of Oz, right? But in the Wizard of Oz, they was in Kansas, and it was a storm that happened, And when this storm happened, it was other portals being opened up. See, you don't know that, right? But they just told you other portals was opened up. Why? Because the devil, Satan, just asked God for permission to come over here and do things to Job. So Job standing there rich, all his employees come tell him that all his businesses just failed. Another servant come tell him that the house that had all his whole family in it just got destroyed. So his family destroyed, his house. Can you imagine getting all these phone calls at the same time? You get a phone call that your bank account empty. You get another phone call that your business is over with. You get another phone call that your savings account is over with. You get another phone call that your family is over with. You get another phone call that is over with. Job said he cut his hair, took his clothes off, got naked, was laying on the ground. He didn't know what he was having, a mental breakdown, bro. Like, damn, I'm losing everything right now. So, but he didn't disrespect God. He didn't disrespect his maker, right? So it say the second trial. Once again, the sons of God came to present themselves to the Lord, and Satan also came with them. And the Lord said to Satan, Whence you come, where do you come from? Satan answered the Lord and said, From roaming the earth and patrolling it. And the Lord said to Satan, Have you noticed my servant, and that there is none like him in the earth, faultless and upright, fearing God and avoiding evil? He still holds fast to the innocent, although you entice me against him to ruin him without cause. And Satan answered, and the Lord and said, Skin for skin. All that a man has will he give for his life. But now put forth your hand and touch his bones and his flesh, and surely he will blaspheme you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, He is in your power. Only spare his life. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with several boils from the soles of his feet to the crowns of his head. And he took a potsherd to scrape himself as he sat among the ashes. Then his wife said to him, Are you still holding your innocence? Curse God and die. But he said to her, Are you even going to speak as a senseless woman do? We accept good things from God, and should we not accept evil? Through all this, Job said nothing sinful. Now, when Job's friends heard of all the misfortune that had come upon him, they set out one from their own place. It say Eliphaz from Teman, Baldad from Shun, and Zophar from Namath. They met and journeyed together, the three wise men, to give him sympathy and comfort. But when at a distance they lifted up their eyes and did not recognize him, they began to weep aloud. They tore their cloaks and they threw dust upon their heads. Then they sat down upon the ground with him 7 days and 7 nights, but none of them spoke a word to him, for they saw how great his suffering was. They didn't even recognize him. That's suffering, isn't it? So he becoming wise, right? Because the more suffering you go through, that's your wisdom is being established, right? So even though Job is going through some shit right now, Job is becoming a wise man, honey. Very wise man. He done lost everything. And when you lose everything, you gaining everything. You just don't know it because you going through the rigmarole of losing everything. But it's a duality. So if you losing everything, that means you gaining everything too, right? Sometimes you have to lose the things that you got so you could gain the things that God got for you. You understand what I'm telling you? Because some of us be holding on to the wrong things. Some of us surrounded by the wrong things. So when we start growing spiritually, we got to come up out of those things. So that becomes a death. Because he died, right? He got to mourn. They mourning with him. They grieving with him. Why? Because it's a death of who he was. So you got to give death to who you was in order to become the new you. This is all spiritual. And this went on in the Wizard of Oz too, but it went over our heads, right? Because that's what it was about. Remember, Dorothy was skipping around and she was lost and she was hanging around with somebody that ain't had no brain. And she was hanging with somebody that ain't know how to love people. And, Dorothy was on the wrong track. So when she went to Oz, everybody found their brain, people found their courage, folk found the way to love folk. They gave death to who they was and evolved into someone new. But let's keep going. The first cycles of speech, Job's plaint. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed his day. Job spoke out and said, perish the day on which I was born, the night when they said the child is a boy. May that day be darkness. Let not God above call for it, nor light shine upon it. May darkness and gloom claim it, clouds settle upon it. The blackness of night are affrighted. May obscurity seize that day. Let it not occur among the days of the year, nor enter into the count of the mouths. May that night be barren. Let no joyful outcry greet it. Let them curse it. Who cursed the sea? The appointed disturbers of the Leviathan. May the stars of the twilight be darkened. May it look for daylight, but have none, nor gaze on the eyes of the dawn, because it kept not shut the doors of the womb to shield my eyes from trouble. Why did I not perish at birth, come forth from the womb and expire? Or why was I not buried away like an untimely birth, like babes that have never been seen, that never seen the light? Wherefore did the knees receive me? Or why did I suck the breast? For then I should have lain down and been tranquil. Have I slept, I should have been at rest. With kings of the counselors in the earth, who built where now the ruins, or with the princes who had gold and filled their houses with silver. There the wicked cease from troubling, and their weary are at rest. There are captives are to ease together. Okay, I'm done reading this. But long story short, honey, Satan was walking up and to and fro in the earth to see who he could seek and devour. So if he was able to walk around the earth, up and down, to and from, coming in and out, that lets you know he has a power that we don't have, because he's not human, right? Because he can go in and out, up and down, to and from, and he's allowed to talk to God, to ask God to test your gangster. Let me test your health. Let me test your finances. Let me test your faith. Let me test your feelings, how you feel. Let me, that type of stuff. So that's where you got to strengthen this stuff, because you're going to be tested. You're an Olympian. You got to pass the torch on to the next generation. You got to teach yourself this knowledge, this wisdom, right? It's imperative, right? Okay, so George climbing up the beanstalk, because George is also King Solomon, right? Now, King Solomon is the greetings and gratitude for that subscription. George Washington is also King Solomon, right? So with George Washington being King Solomon is the Lord of the Rings. King Solomon has the ability to control demons. Okay? So we talking about going into another realm with demons. Okay. So King Solomon was able to go into other realms because he was an astronomer. He was into astrology. He was into the stars. So we still talking about King George. We just calling him Solomon by his other name, right? So you can identify with who we talking about, the wisest man that ever lived. So this man went through sorrow. He went through suffering. He lost his family. He lost his children. He went through a lot of pain and suffering because they say King Solomon is the wisest man that ever lived. So that meant he went through some of the sorrows that other people did not experience, correct? Because you have to have sorrow to be wise. Now, King George, aka Solomon, um, was able to get these beanstalks, go to this other realm, and see these giants, aka demons. King Solomon would sit in his chair and he would ask each demon, "What is your superpower?" The demons will reveal the superpowers on to Solomon. Oh my goodness, y'all. I gotta take this phone call. I guess okay, it's an hour live, so I could do a part two with Solomon. I guess I could do a part two. It's cool. It's cool. We gonna do a part two. But I'll be back because I gotta take this call. So I will talk to y'all beautiful souls real soon with the part two of Solomon, talking about the demons and everything. That way I could go get some images and stuff together. Okay. So I will see y'all on the next live. All right, peace.